Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We have a special guest with us today. We are streaming YouTube, so if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the comment section. We'll get to them at the end. As always, when you guys see the interview scheduled, you can always email me beforehand with questions, zach@zachballinger.com. We'll get to those and ask our host those questions. So without further ado, Robbie or Robert, thank you for joining the show today.
Hey, man, it is an honor. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we'll jump right in here. I just want to know, what is your exact occupation, your career title? What do you do for a living?
My exact career title is worship pastor. So I am a worship pastor at a large church. I actually oversee a few different areas. It's kind of church life. But those areas I oversee is communication, which is basically anything that is printed, video recorded, graphic design, production, which is audio, lighting, video, LED wall, and worship, which is music, and just caring for all the volunteers within those organizations. So,
and how many years have you done this?
14. So I've been at it.
So I actually get quite a few questions on either the church or the clergy work. And so I'm glad to have you on. So how did you at first identify this was actually a career opportunity, number one? And number two, what made you go for this specific title?
Man, it was a stumble into it. I've always had a passion for music. I've always enjoyed singing, but I think ministry is not necessarily just that. We believe that God gives you passions. Whether it's to be a doctor, whether it's to be, a pastor. So I think that as I graduated school, I kind of found myself in this place where I needed pastoral care. And really just God lined some steps up, and opportunities came, and it was it kind of just lined up with where I was in life and my passion.
So you look at your job. What do you love most about it? What are you excited about? What gets you going?
What I love most is probably I love people. I think that probably what you love most about your job is maybe inspiring and giving some hope to people. I think that is one of the coolest gifts as a content creator, as a pastor, as a friend, as a parent, is to inspire and give hope. And I get to do that in so many ways. In the context of ministry, in the context of church. And so it is absolutely rewarding. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So
it's awesome. And, let's look at something else. Sometimes people have a little bit of hard time answering this. Other people know it right away. But what's some of the difficulties of your job, or some of the things that you may not like about it?
Well, I think in all work, there is this dynamic of people. And so people can be hard. And so even in the church world, it's full of people. And so that is a challenging thing. It's also a beautiful thing, and what makes it special. When you're on staff at any church, a disagreement is not, sometimes it's not just like, if you're in sales, this is not the best approach. I'm going to push, you're pushing the client too hard. When you're in disagreements in ministry, a lot of times it can be theological. And so the disagreements can feel I would imagine, a lot weightier because it's attached to a belief system in how you operate in everyday life. So I think that's probably the most challenging thing is really honoring, if it's a senior pastor or a direct report, or even a senior pastor to congregants. So it's church is a unique culture, and there is a lot of moving pieces. And frankly, like seminary never prepares you for leadership. So, for instance, even if you're at a small church, you're operating as a CEO type position because whether it's deacons, elder, volunteer, a lot of times those volunteers will lead other people. And so as your church grows in scale, the complexity of an organization grows in scale. And so the complexity for people to be people happens. So it's always good to have clear vision, strategy, which is, great business practice, but also church practice, because culture is so important. I might thrive at New Vision where I serve, but I might not thrive at another church because the culture might be completely different. So it's but it's the same career. So a lot of it is associated with passion, a lot is associated with calling, and really just kind of where God has you in the journey that you're on.
And, let's say someone's out there, they're a student or they're college and they see worship pastor, and that sounds pretty cool. You get to lead music and you love music. So that might be, but walk us through a typical day. I know that days change for every different professional, but if you were going into a typical day, or maybe describe yesterday, or if you have a hard time with a typical day, when you get up in the morning and when you go to bed, what does that look like?
Just a typical day as worship pastor, man. It is very unpredictable. Everyone's job, I'm sure everyone says that. We do have some like staples, which are meetings that point toward the weekend. Now our church is thousands of people. We have 2 campuses, like 7 services. It's a lot. So there's a considerable amount of planning that leads to, and then meetings that leads to. I sit on the leadership team in our church, and that is more of overarching vision and decision making, and then there are meetings upon meetings upon meetings. And there are moments where I'm trying to think of something random. You're trying to figure out how to set up a 50-foot Christmas tree or a 30-foot Christmas tree. How do you anchor this into the ground? So I think that one of the unique challenges or unique things about my position, it might be more of a director of creative arts or something. With all those different roles, there's usually a different challenge every day. But for the worship pastor, a lot of it is focused on preparing and planning, but also care of volunteers. So that really is what a worship pastor's main focus is. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because a lot of times we see these careers and we see how cool or luxurious they sound on the surface. So basically, what I'm kind of getting to, you don't just show up on Sunday, play music, and then go home.
No, absolutely not. So it's a Tuesday. I'm in we're in a sermon planning meeting. This is a real thing. Pastor, who he's, I'm a yes guy. So like, there's always a way. Like, it might not be the best thing to do, but there's always a way. Now, if that means, can you stream to a Nokia 57, like an old school brick phone? There's always a way. Tuesday, this happens. Not this past Tuesday, but a few years ago, he said, "Can we get a boxing ring on stage?" And so literally, my next few hours is being frustrated, and then after that, it's like, okay, how do you make a boxing ring happen? So, it was chaos getting team members to go and find tug of war rope and build a boxing ring. And it was a cool thing. But there's also, there's that. And then there's sitting in the hospital talking to a family whose mother is passing away, so there's a wide variety of heartache, of heaviness, and of just weird grunt work. You're thinking, I'm 36-year-old man and I'm trying to build a boxing ring.
Yeah, that sounds pretty complicated. So so let's focus on that because not the boxing ring per se, but the stage, the animation, the effects, and I don't know all the words for it, but
Yeah.
a lot of people out there listening to the show are from different religious backgrounds, so they may not know what
Mhm.
you're meaning by production or
Yeah.
staging. So, can you walk us through what exactly that means?
Yeah. Okay. So we are. It's more of an auditorium style. It's our sanctuary seats about 1,600 people. The stage, we have a LED wall, which is basically like a jumbotron that is behind on the backside of the stage. So there's design elements, graphical artists that work for the communication team that will create images for said wall, create video for wall. So for Christmas Eve coming up on the 24th, we're doing a Zoom choir. We're all capturing it prior to Christmas Eve and playing two videos that are synced together, one for online and incorporating video shots of people in the room. So it's really high technical. It's like a lack of a better term, a concert production, with different elements. And there are different means and cultures in ministry, as you say yourself. It's part of even me getting into this space, and it was a part of my passion, and that was like being a competitive person, seeing what other churches were doing. When I started at New Vision, it wasn't. There was one service, and it was 250 people. So I have. In fact, Anthony Caldwell, a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, he came in after going to New Vision one morning, and I got out of bed and said, "You found us a church yet?" He's like, "I think so." And so we went that night, and then I really became a product of the ministry at New Vision, which was a really, really neat thing. But sorry, that's side note. But a worship pastor job looks different at different spaces and different points in the career. I don't even lead on stage anymore. I don't really do much music at this point in where I'm at. So at New Vision. So
Gotcha. And let's think back to when you were a kid, and for the audience that don't know, we actually grew up together. But just going back, if it was third, fourth, fifth grade, whatever, what did you dream of being when you were little?
Oh man, basketball player, Michael Jordan. I think that I would lay in bed and I would listen to Garth Brooks. I would listen to Guns N' Roses, and I would remember just I guess daydreaming. And so there was always this affinity or draw to music. It wasn't until probably college that it became like a pursuit of art or a pursuit of a craft to grow in. So, I think, go ahead.
You mentioned the word passion. That's a lot what I talk about is pursuing your passion, your purpose, your passion, which I think a lot of them are interchangeable. But, growing up, I kind of saw what you would do. Maybe you didn't see it. And I think a lot of us are in the same boat. Our professional networks actually see what we're going to be before us. We don't see our strengths a lot of times. I knew you'd always had the passion and the gift for Christian music, as well as you were very attached to your faith and very devoted to that. So I could definitely see this as a career path. And maybe at the time, a lot of times we can't see what's in our own mirror as far as our strengths. But, talk about what you mean by passion in your career.
Passion in my career in specifically to the music side of things, or
you talked about pursuing this passion. What's the passion for you in your life?
Oh, music at that time, like that. I guess in the context of just what it was music. I loved music. I think that even in high school, I was. A lot of my Anthony, my close friends, that was our core. We were in church together, and so that became a an absolute friendship, but ultimately, God used that to put me into, to give me, I guess, desire. I wanted to honor God with my life. And so as things happened, that was really what kind of won the day in my daily choices. I think that in our spiritual life, going into college, parents divorce, there things happen where maybe your faith is tested. And I think that, in those, your passion for certain things is tested. Maybe even sometimes at some point in your life, it's pivoted. I think that music has always been a thread as far as something that has been within me that I've enjoyed and been a part of. Passion, though, I really do believe that, and I didn't realize it then, was connecting to people. Vulnerability is so very important, and I believe it is the foundation for any relationship, whether it's networking for a job, whether it is leading 3 different teams, or whether it is a successful marriage. Vulnerability is the foundation. Brene Brown says trust is a byproduct of vulnerability. So you really can't have trust if vulnerability is not experienced. And so what I love is being with people. I love being vulnerable, sharing stories, sharing life. Even when we started this call, I went straight to history, and sadness that maybe both of us experienced at some point in time. So I think that vulnerability and connection with people is absolutely my passion. And I think that that's what the church offers. Whether I realize it or not, the church offered that connection, that core community. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing for me. And it has been my entire life.
It's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's great advice. Let's say you're out there. This actually did come in from a student. They're in high school. Let's say that they've identified this in their particular pathway. They've said, I want to work in the church. I want to be a youth pastor, or I want to be a music pastor, whatever it is. What advice would you give a student 18 that are just, kind of going through college right now? What advice would you give them?
I would start now. I think that, there is never an start now as far as caring for people, as far as ministry. I think there are 18-year-olds that are engaged in ministry that have positions. I would start now, whether it's interning at a big church, whether it's helping a small church. I think you plug in. I do think that going to school, getting a degree that is probably, a lot of people I want to go into religious studies, which is great. But I would say go to business, get a business degree, get a degree that is going to either teach you something or prepare you for conflict, and hopefully maybe even cultivate some, at least some understanding of developing a healthy strategy or a vision for an organization. Because even if you're a youth director, you are basically a boss of an area, and you have a vision and a strategy to execute. And so I think a lot of times, like I said earlier, seminary, which is important, and that's where you will learn a lot of your core foundations as far as religious studies. But I think that being able to position yourself to be able to understand and have solid strategy, vision, and just acumen to make decisions, being able to embrace conflict, because you will have it in all professions, even the church.
Yeah, great answer. One of the things we lack in this country on with a high school and college level, we graduate, and there's 3 components that we really miss the boat on, and that's personal finance. Most of us graduate and we don't even know what debt means. And then second of all, we graduate and we're like, wait, we're supposed to get a career during that time. So career development's not kind of lacks behind. And number three, I think you hit the nail on the head with the leadership component. Sometimes we have group projects and we're supposed to be leaders, but we were never really given those skills or taught how to do that. And so you get out in the marketplace and you want to do something, whether it's a youth pastor or own your own business, you have to learn those skills. I don't think leaders were born in the womb. They had to learn somehow. So I think I'm glad you touched on that. So talk about the side project that you're doing. You kind of mentioned that to me. Yeah. Give me.
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
For anyone that is at any age, emotional health. I think beyond all things, like if you really want to be a successful leader, if you want to be a successful husband, really cultivating a emotional and health. You want to cultivate a heavy understanding of our emotions, how they work, and how to engage. Because in every situation, you never know. There's always a conversation behind the conversation that you're having. And I think the more emotionally healthy and someone may deal with their own shame or fear, it sets them up to succeed in the conversation that they're having in that moment. There's always a conversation underlying. And I would just, I'd encourage anyone to grow in that space, because that will open up a wide door of joy and living fully. All right. So business, it's not really that important. It's a really cool thing. It's a unique thing that we experienced at New Vision about 2016. Christmas Eve services, everybody was trying to come to the middle service. It was chaos. So me and a buddy that is a developer, we tried to build a solution for our church that would basically communicate capacity to church attendees. So, this many people have RSVP'd for this church, this service, do not come to this service, kind of like help people self-regulate what service they go to, type deal. We ended up not even using it till 2020. This pandemic happened. And all of a sudden, not only our church, but every church in the nation needed a means to communicate capacity and needed a means to regulate who's coming to church. And depending on really where you're at, in some clergy, there's a lot of dioceses that have come on with us. And depending on what, a diocese might say, hey, you have to RSVP. Everyone has to. It doesn't matter what you think as an individual, this is the direction we're going. And then Southern Baptist, it might be everybody come on in and take off your mask when you get in. But the point, I guess, that what we've created is it's pastorstoolbox.com. It's really a save a seat program that helps churches congregate. We're getting ready to release childcare. Because that's one of the big issues right now in churches is how to navigate even capacity, because it's like churches, again, are complex. So you're not only doing regulations for attendance, but you're also doing regulation like maybe even classrooms. So what are schools doing? What's the capacity that local schools have? So, when you're making decisions, the church world is a part of a larger community. So it's influenced, and its decisions are influenced by a lot of varying factors. We build a software that'll help churches navigate that and navigate this season. So we're excited about it. Hopefully we don't need it and we can go back to church and this pandemic is slows. But who knows?
That's a great idea because, everybody's kind of limited on their capacity, especially in your larger churches. So I'm sure if somebody's out there that's seeking that tool, they can, and we'll link to that. You said it's pastorstoolbox.com. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure to link to that. And so one of the last questions that someone asked that I want you to kind of touch on, they asked, what skills do you need to have to be a youth pastor?
A youth pastor?
Yeah.
I think that there is a comfort in your own skin. I think that's so important. When you get up and speak in front of someone, when you get up to engage in students, it's confidence is a big deal. And, I think that's why I even say emotional health is because a lot of times those internal voices drive us to maybe say no to an interview with Zach, because they're afraid they're going to be bumbling idiots like myself. But
fine.
yeah. So I think that it comes down to emotional health and developing a sense of confidence and preparedness. Youth ministry can look like a lot of things at a lot of different churches. I think when you want to step into a space, I think that, understand what it is that you are passionate about, what is it you're comfortable with, and then go find a place to care for people in that space with that passion, with that comfort, because I think that's everything. And there's a church for all kinds of people out there. There's 10 on this road.
And, just closing out, I think that's the key. If you're out there listening, you're a student and you want to do this type of career, there's churches on everywhere. So get out there and get involved now to see if it's something you would actually want to do for a full-time career. Other industries, it's kind of hard to find something like that. If it's very specialized, you might have to really turn over a lot of rocks, start networking. But like you said, Robbie, there's a lot of churches everywhere that.
Yeah. And let me say this. I know we got to end. There is an economy in every church, from graphic design to video editing to facilities to accounting. Every career is involved in a church. It is an economy. So I think that really you can care and be involved in the church world with any passion, really. It's just, how do you use your passion for God's glory?
Great advice. This has been fascinating. I'm so glad you joined. This is really going to help a lot of our youth that's been interested in these type of careers, whether it's in the church or maybe a worship pastor. So, Robbie, thank you so much for joining the show. We really do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.
All right. Take care.
See you, bud.